Welcome to episode 305 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and I'm joined by Ryan.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we are the triple threat in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
Triple threat throwdown, D&D style.
I
So
couldn't
this
come
week
up with anything clever this week.
it was all right. So we played some Demon Stone on the PlayStation 2. If you're keeping up with us on our social media, you'll see a picture a little while back where he said, "Hey, here's what we're playing," and it's one of the games.
It's all
So
D&D this month.
Yeah, exactly. So Ryan, other than that, what are we gonna be talking about today?
Yeah, so this week we chat about critic reviews versus first-hand experience. Then Nintendo's lawyers know they got to catch them all when it comes to anyone infringing on Pokemon. And we take a look at Nintendo as they get their own unwanted surprise as their major leak of the Nintendo Switch 2 explodes online.
Before we start, you can also find us on the GameDeflators.com, our currently out-of-date website. I don't know, but just find us on there. Lots of cool stuff. We got merch that you can purchase. Shirts are good. I actually wore a shirt last week and I liked it. Coasters, whiskey glasses, hats. I'm going to get panties for Ryan on there. Lots of stuff.
Anything you can slap a logo on. Anything you want to be deflated.
Now, I'll tell you, if I get you panties, it might be deflated forever.
We need to make deflated and inflated stickers that people could just slap on things.
We probably should. Well, I don't know. It'd have to have our logo on it, but not everything is present on there right now. Like I don't have Ryan's panties on there at this point. They might be down the road, little Game Deflators circles. I might put socks, but right now it's just kind of a t-shirt.
I would love socks.
Okay, I'll throw socks on there. But we've got t-shirts, whiskey glass, coasters, and a hat. A couple hats in different colors. So I think there's pink, purple, and black, I want to say, on the colors that we have. So yeah, go check it out. You can also find us on YouTube where we have this video that you're watching. And if you're listening, you can go watch it. Ring the bell for subscribers and subscribe, I guess, and all of that good stuff that comes with YouTube. You can also find us on social media at Game Deflators on X, at The Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. We're also on podcast applications everywhere. So if you're listening to us, you're already aware of that. But leave us a 5-star review, comment, and everything else that goes with that. So there's a lot, Ryan. We're in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's kick it off with pickups. Here is my pickup for the week. The new Player's Handbook.
Oh, those are out? I want one.
Yeah, special edition cover too. So I like it. It's got the 50th anniversary logo on the back. Pretty sweet looking piece. So yeah, D&D Player's Handbook. The Monster Manual, I want to say, comes out next year. And I want to say later this year, the DM's Guide comes out. So I got all of those with the special cover. Excited for the rest of them to come out and adding them to the collection where I will maybe open them once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife has already said, "Where's the book? I want to crack it open and look." I'm like, "You gotta hold on. It's got to go on the podcast and show it off and everything, and then you can have at it, have fun with the book." And then as far as what I'm currently playing, I'm still playing Wo Long. I got past Lu Bu, I think is the name, which was a ridiculously hard boss. Took God knows how long to beat that guy, but finally beat him. And then, and I think I talked about that last week, as a matter of fact. And then I progressed through a little further and got to his other boss battle. I think it's Chaoti, I think is the name of the boss, but it's basically this giant mass of flesh and shoots laser beams and things at you. And so that guy, I was so pissed. So I got through like the first form. I was like, cool, not too bad. And he falls to the ground and he's not disappearing. So I'm just kind of sitting there thinking, well, damn, I got no more of my dragon flask. I'm kind of screwed in that respect. So here comes second form. And then he comes up and he turns into like this giant thing on 4 legs that rushes towards you. And I was screwed at that point. So all good. I got to get back into that one and try it out. But so far, enjoying the game still. Definitely like the boss battles. A little more difficult now that, you know, the boss battles have kind of picked up. Whereas the first like 6 or 7 boss battles, like, this isn't that great. You know, not that it's not that great, but not that difficult. And then Lu Bu came, and then this one comes up, and yeah, it's a little more difficult. That said, the actual progression through the different levels is not difficult at all so far. Like, it's actually fairly easy for the most part. I haven't had any concerns, and I'm able to blaze through them pretty quickly. The other game that we're playing right now, my wife and I picked up Gollum again. We put in probably about 2 hours yesterday. So that put us at chapter 6. So we've essentially escaped the tower that we were in, and we're kind of trying to leave the Mordor region. Once we finish with that, we'll obviously be with the elves. And from what I have been reading, the game is not aesthetically pleasing within the whole like Mordor situation, because you're just going through caves and it all looks the same and you're just kind of trying to do the same stuff. Whereas once you get to the elves, yes, you're doing a lot of the same stuff, but at least visually it's better. There's a lot more
Okay.
green, different colors that are tied to it. So that's, we'll see. You
A
know,
fresh environment.
yeah. I mean, because the first 5 chapters are like, oh my God, this is just not ending. And even yesterday, I was getting to a point where I'm like, this is stupid. Like, there were jumps I was trying to make that it wasn't working. There was, this was great. There's one area when we're trying to escape, and it has you like rush up to the wall, and it says press square to jump backwards. I'm like, okay. So I rush up the wall and I press square and nothing happens. Like, it's just, it gives you the trigger and says you need to press square, but nothing's happening. So I had to do hit X and then hit the joystick back to be able to do my jump. And of course, died several times in that instance. There was also a stupid puzzle that I just could not figure out. And it turns out there was a switch blended into a corner that was not
Mm.
highlighted in any capacity when I was playing the game. So just little things like that were bugging me yesterday. I finally got through it all, and then hopefully
Did you
on to
get to the
greener
bird?
pastures. The bird as in the little bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had the little bird for a while. Why?
I just remember that from the reviews being like, since when does Gollum have a pet chicken? Like, how does this make any sense?
Well, I don't know. I'm assuming it dies at some point. The bird he has, so to give you a little insight into that, the tower we're in is controlled by the Candleman. And the Candleman pretty much, anybody that's sees him and ends up, dying, it's because of the Candleman. He sends them off to their death. Well, for whatever reason, he uses Gollum as like an agent to, try and figure out corruption and spies and things of that nature within the tower. So he's utilizing Gollum. Well, what he doesn't know is Gollum apparently is smarter and utilizing him. And so at some point, the Candleman's like, oh, yeah, we're going to have you train a bird. I don't know why, but apparently he's like, Gollum gets a pet bird. And so, yeah, you essentially create this bird through whatever contraption that they have, and like put the egg out, in it has like a giant nest and like heating elements. I don't remember all of it, but basically it creates a bird. And depending on like how you do in that puzzle, it could be a brown bird or some other color. And so I ended up with a
Okay.
brown bird. Yeah. And so the whole story is like Gollum is working at the Candleman to try and train this bird. And effectively, or essentially, Gollum utilizes the bird to escape and take keys from the Candleman. Like, it's the weirdest shit, dude. Like, there's just so much odd stuff that's going.
Very Lord of the Rings, huh?
It's an original story, so I'm not gonna knock on it too much because it is an original story, but it's it's quirky in a sense, right? Like, why would there was like Gollum had this crazy mistrust of birds like throughout the beginning of the game, as you saw, where he thought birds were spying on him, and then all of a sudden it's, well, now I have a pet bird, and it's no longer a spy, and it's now my friend. So it's really weird, but
Okay.
we'll see. Greener pastures coming with the elves, hopefully. Yep. How about yourself?
So I did nothing this week. This week was kind of busy for me, so I didn't really have any time to play anything or pick anything up. I am excited about this upcoming week, though. This upcoming week will be my birthday. Yay. So hopefully I'll get some cool stuff I can show off next week. Also, it's everybody's birthday. Balatro comes out on the 26th for mobile, and I've always heard really good things about that game, so I'm excited to pick that up on my phone. And then I don't know, man. So the 26th is when the 30th anniversary PS5 like limited edition series pre-orders are going live. And there's still no announcement on the timing, but that gray PS5 Pro looks pretty sweet.
Are you gonna buy it?
I don't know. I'm hoping that we'll get an announcement of how much it's going to be, and then I'm probably going to not do anything about it. But if it was something that I was able to do something about, I think they only made like 12,500 of them or something. So there's like no chance I would be able to get one anyways.
It's going to be scalped on top of that. If you wanted to play disc-based games in it, how would that work? Because are they releasing a limited edition color disc system too?
I mean, it's just the cover. Like, it comes with an extra gray side panel to put the disc drive in, but it's
Okay.
not going to come with the disc drive. I think it does come with the vertical stand, though.
So it'll be 750. So 700.
No, I mean, it's limited edition and, you know,
Yeah.
30th anniversary. So, I mean, people are guessing it's probably going to be like $1,000 or something stupid.
No, they'll
So,
release it at the same price point for a limited period of time. It'll just get scalped immediately.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I guess we dive into our discussion topic today.
Yep.
So I was thinking as I was, I don't know, hanging out outside that maybe we should talk about reviews and how you know, our perception of who to trust. You know, do we trust a critic who maybe has had their pockets lined or has not had them lined, or do I trust Ryan and his review of a game, you know, or any other firsthand account? So kick it off to
First-hand
you.
account of me? I'd have to play something, Sean. How dare you?
Well, no, you'd have to beat it. You'd have to beat the game. You know, you could at least get some
You don't
enjoyment from
have
the
to
very
beat
beginning.
a game all the way through to review it, I don't think. I
No, you
think you
don't.
can
I
give
mean,
it impressions for sure, and I do rely a lot on impressions. Usually I look at a few people still these days for reviews. I like SkillUp. I like Jake Baldino and the guys over at Game Ranks. You know, they do the Before You Buy series, which is always really good to get kind of an idea on, you know, what you can expect. And I mean, so many games these days come out unfinished, you know, without the polish that you would normally expect to have. So I really, you know, I've been mostly just riding the Game Pass train, so it's pretty easy for me to just download something and play it if it's day one release and not really have to, you know, sweat it too much. So I do like being able to get, you know, my own accounting of it as well. But I think since I don't have a PS5 and I've been putting off purchasing a lot of games until I do get a PS5 so that I can play them more optimally, um, I'm going to go back and look at a lot of those reviews to decide, you know, what I want to get and then follow up and see if, you know, some of those things have been patched out. Because if something's really going to be like a bad experience, like Cyberpunk, like I'm so glad that I didn't buy Cyberpunk or try to play Cyberpunk when that came out, that I just kind of intrinsically knew, like, from what the reviews said, that this was a game best slept on and then played once it was all fixed. And now, whenever I decide to jump into it, it'll be a phenomenal experience.
so I take a few different approaches with it. I generally don't go critic only. And reason being is if you look at movies, for example, not just video games, like let's just say you dive into a movie and you go to Rotten Tomatoes and you see critic reviews, and your critic review is, say, 35%, right? But that audience score is sitting up there at like 75%. Who are you going to trust more? The critic who maybe got a payout from the, you know, studio, maybe didn't get a payout from the studio, maybe.
To do a poor review?
Well, no, I mean, so they could have done a good review, is what I'm saying. So you could have had somebody that's paid out and they did a good review, or the studio didn't pay them out. And well, screw them. I'm going to put 2 out of 5 stars or whatever my review score is on here. Whereas with the users, you generally have, you know, favorable reviews if it's a decent movie. And if it's a really bad movie, you're going to get bad reviews. And it's going to be very honest. There's no reason as to why somebody would sit there and go online and be like, yep, this movie absolutely sucked. That's the worst thing I've ever
People
seen.
do that all the time, John. It's called review bombing.
They do review bomb, but there's usually a reason for a review bomb, and you can kind of see the review bombs.
They might not like the director's last movie, or they might not like Warner Brothers' approach to, you know, how they're treating their employees, or they might not like, you know, the promotions that are going on Disney Plus this month. Like, there's all kinds of reasons for people to go and leave a bad review for no reason at all.
Well, that's why you read reviews. You don't go based on the overall score and say, well, it's a 75, it must be great. Or no, it's a 40, it must be a terrible movie. Like, I always go into reviews and like read the firsthand account, like experiences as to why something scored poorly for them, right? And generally, you'll just see 1 star, no explanation. But then you'll see a 5 star says, oh, this was fantastic. It's the best thing I've ever seen, right? And so, like, here's the reasons why. So you could generally kind of filter through and say, all right, these 5 bad reviews, person was angry. They like I've literally gone on like things like Rotten Tomatoes said, well, my popcorn wasn't hot enough or whatever. And it's like, how does that affect the movie that you just saw? Like that's at the theater. So I've seen stupid
Yeah.
shit like that.
Well,
And then vice versa. You could have a fantastic product, or I mean a poor product, but the critic scores are like way the hell up here. And I think we get that with video games too. We've seen games that score generally pretty good, and then users are like, no, it's a 6 out of 10. It's not this 9.25 that was given by IGN. So I think I think there's a fine balance between the two, right? Like you want to get the corporate view of it and why it's so good from their perspective, and really get some insight into things that maybe your general audience is not going to be seeing. But then you also want that firsthand account, because those are people that are actively sitting back enjoying it, who maybe have the same mindset you do, and they're not looking at, oh, well, the pixels were jaggy in these particular areas of grass, right? Like that's the type of stuff I think you're going to get with your critic reviews versus those user scores are going to be a little more high level in a sense.
yeah, but I don't think that like a real great critic is going to look at a fantastic game and give it super low, unrealistic markings for having, certain things that are off. Like usually they're going to be better at articulating what makes certain things better than users, and also they're a lot more locked in on those reasons and opinions. I feel a lot of the time, like you go to Steam and you look at Steam reviews on something like Helldivers 2, I mean it has swayed up and down, and it's not because the game itself changed significantly. It's just all about balance and user opinion and how they are reacting and using it almost as like a sounding board to message to, the developers to be like, we don't like what's going on here. And it really becomes more of like a method of communication in real time than an assessment of what am I getting into with this game, and is it I mean, like what we do, is it worth getting into,
But
and
is
I
that a
think
bad sorry, is that a bad thing though? Is like a live soundboard? I would think it's actually a
but
good thing.
it's a different thing though.
Yeah.
We're just kind of talking here, but it's like in those hands, like I don't think that somebody who hasn't played that game is really getting why this game is a mixed review, because the flamethrower is not as good as it was, or because a few months ago Sony tried to implement a PlayStation user sign in. Like at this point, you can only buy that game if you're in a region where that's available. So that kind of problem is kind of off the board, I'm assuming, at this point. But originally, those would have been really good things to know in the comments, in those reviews. And that might even be something that like a critic might not even know about if they're playing a game ahead of time. A lot of times they're playing in an environment where they don't have a day one patch, or they don't necessarily have access to, unlimited time and other players to do online modes with, to really get a full sense of that, if it's just like a side content or something in another game. So
So
it's
would you then take, put greater weight into that user review and that sounding board type of environment that we are kind of living in a sense? And I bring that up in the sense of like you said, right? Like, okay, this weapon is not what it used to be, or you've nerfed X amount of weapons, or hey, we miss however many levels that were in this game that have now been patched out, or things of that nature. I mean, those are user experience, issues, right? So as you're reviewing the reviews to determine if you want to make that purchase, that's all valuable information. You might look at a whole bunch of mixed reviews and say, well, I don't care if the flamethrower is nerfed, and I don't care if they patched out whatever it may be. Like that's not critical to what I'm thinking, and then you're going to filter through and obviously make your own judgment call based on maybe lengthier reviews that are more focused on overall gameplay or graphics or how it might run on
Well,
their
you're
PC, things of
assuming
that
that
nature.
most people, I mean, I guess we're both assuming in this conversation that these are people who are willing to read and or look a little bit further into these things. But I mean, at a cursory glance, like when you're dealing with the general, people who look at a glance, like I only want 4.5 stars and up for my food. Like, just because some people had a bad experience at a
Yeah.
restaurant doesn't mean that 3.9 restaurant isn't worth eating at. But if you kind of set a certain standard and other people are complaining about, uh, they were out of something that day, that's not really going to give you all the information. I mean, you're never going to get all the information at a glance, but it can be very unfair to see just kind of the general status, like in this situation, mixed review. Some people might just not play mixed review games. They're like, if I have unlimited time or a limited time to play games, I only want to play good games. So I'm not
Well,
going to even play anything that brushes that.
and that's
And
fine
there
with
may
like,
be reasons that aren't a review or aren't like a critical look at something that are weighing in against those in the same environment.
yeah, and that's the kind of the approach I take with Amazon specifically. Actually, if you go on Amazon to purchase a video game, you might see something listed as 3.5 stars with 6 reviews. You're like, all right, well, that's kind of shitty, right? But let me dive into it. And then it come to find out, there's 2 people that said, "Oh, Amazon lost my package, 1 star."
Mhm.
Doesn't tell me anything about the game, right? All you've done is you've rated it poorly because of your experience of Amazon, not your experience of the product itself and that video game.
Wait, are
So
you getting game reviews from Amazon?
I mean, it's user reviews. It's people that have purchased a product and left a review. So whenever, not that I go on there and say I want to purchase X game, when I browse Amazon, that's where I find all my my video games that are obscure, right? Things that
But
I
you're
didn't know
more
were coming
interested
out.
in looking at, like, the sellers of those games than what the people who bought it on
No,
Amazon had to say about it, right?
no, it's the actual like video game. If it's being released on Amazon, it's sold by Amazon, shipped by Amazon, right? Like those games in particular. If you go on to reviews for those titles, you'll actually get like pretty decent reviews from people that are playing the game to say, yeah, this is a great game. Here's why. So I do trust Amazon to an extent, like the user reviews on those products, because it does give a pretty good understanding of like what might be bad, what might be good. But there are a lot of people on there that will rate something poorly because, oh, well, it didn't get shipped in time, or Amazon customer service, like the person dropped it in my backyard instead of at my front porch. It's like, well, that's your settings. You screwed something up, right? Like there's little things like that that bring review scores down on sites like Amazon that, you know, you have to filter through. I mean, ultimately, I think that's what it is. Even things like Metacritic and review bombing. If a game is getting review bombed, 9 out of the 10 reviews are clearly going to be like crap reviews because, oh, well, I don't believe in the political aspects of this video game. Okay, cool. Let me find a review that actually talks about the game itself and goes into those details. Even things like hardware that I'm looking at right now in reviews, right? User reviews specifically. Oh, well, this item came broken and warped. Okay. Out of the 5,000 reviews that are out there, there's maybe 3 or 4 that have had a poor experience, and there's a number that are 4 and 5 stars, right? So I think you kind of have to look at the same with games, like you were saying. Like you're gonna have people that have had bad experiences for whatever that reason may be, and you kind of have to dig through it to get to the deeper details as to what is true and what is pissed off people, essentially.
Mhm.
And some of those pissed off people are legitimate reviews, not discounting or saying that
Yeah,
they're not legitimate reviews, but more oftentimes you get people that are writing reviews because they're angry, not because they're super happy. So
definitely,
yeah, take
definitely.
that as you will. All right, let's dive into our articles. So Nintendo and Pokemon file lawsuit against Palworld developer Pocketpair. So this is coming to us from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Uh, dude, I'm just gonna be out. I want Nintendo to lose this, but I don't think they are. So I've been digging into a little bit deeper. Nintendo has filed a lawsuit on a number of patents that they say that Pocket Pair has essentially violated in a sense, right? Like, and it's not copyright. So let's get that away. It's not oh, well, our things look like Pokemon and you're copying our Pokeball design. It's not that. It could be anything. It could be the mechanic of throwing a ball and capturing a monster in the field, and that's the patent, right? And I will say that these patents that are being that they're suing for are patents in Japan. They are not patents in the U.S. They're both Japanese companies, so they're taking them to Japanese court, not U.S. court. If they were taking them to U.S. court, there would be a whole different issue. Not even an issue. It would actually be thrown out, some of the things that potentially could be a patent here. But here's, in the grand scheme of things and what I've been reading, Nintendo apparently has thousands of patents out there in video games for frivolous stuff. They apparently sued a company a while back for hiding a character hiding behind a tree and a shadow outlined in front of a tree. That was their patent that they own. They sued that company, threw them out of business, from what I've read. There are a number of patents that it could be. It could be texture on a wall. It could be a loading screen. Apparently, for some time, I think it was Bandai Namco had a
loading
patent.
screen mini games.
They had a patent for loading screen mini games, right? And so there was a number of years in the PS2 era where their games had these loading screen mini games, right? So there are patents for just about everything out there. It depends on how Palworld fights it, and of course how Nintendo fights it. I've seen people comparing Nintendo's law team to the Death Star, apparently, that they will just laser beam and destroy whatever company they can. But I think this is a different situation. A lot of those companies that they filed these patent lawsuits against were probably smaller companies couldn't fight. Palworld has sold a crap ton of games. I think it was like $500 million in games. They are fully covered in terms of being able to fight this in court, along with the fact their game is going to continue getting sold. They've already opened up merchandising, right? So they're expanding this franchise out. So that's more dollars being raked in. This lawsuit being filed is probably going to result in more people supporting Palworld, so more money coming in to help them fight these legal battles. I'm really curious to see ultimately what it is that Nintendo is filing for, because it hasn't been revealed. But I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be the throwing a ball and capturing a monster mechanic, a utility patent, essentially. So,
yeah, I mean, whatever happens here, it's probably going to take a while, and we are still waiting to hear the details on what exactly it is over. So we'll have to. I hope we hear that before like the whole thing's over. It's not like, I'd hate to be in a situation where we wait 3 years and then it's like, oh, they lost the lawsuit about the height of the grass. Yeah, Nintendo, they're the only people allowed to make their grass that height in video games. They own that. Or something stupid like that.
Yeah, some of the stuff I've been reading is like all of these patents that Nintendo owns, they could have sued tons of companies over the last 17 years, apparently, over some of these patents. And it's basically in Japan. So in the US, from what I've been reading, some of these patents that Nintendo has would be thrown out immediately. They'd be invalidated.
They're not really a thing.
They're not, like the shadow from behind a tree. How can you patent that in a game?
Yeah.
I can understand
That's
like
just how shadows work.
Yeah, right. I can understand how like patents work with the Pokeball. Like I could totally see that being infringement of some sort within that patent. But at the same time, it's like, well, what are you suing for? Is it because there's a percentile number at the top that says you have an X percent chance of capturing that PAL? Is it the motion in which the ball is being thrown in the field? Is it because you're throwing a ball in a field? There's also some stuff I was reading that said Nintendo didn't even have a patent for like the ball mechanic in a field until like this year, apparently.
It was like 2021 or 2023.
And Palworld had already been in development for some time as well. So how can like they filed for a patent after the development of this other game had started. So it's like, did you catch wind of it and decide to file a patent on this? Like,
I've heard that
what's the deal here?
Yeah, I was reading a thing that said that Palworld might even be able to like go out on the free market and purchase patents that they can use to like bolster their case or something. Like it's very weird situation. So I'll be interested to see how it plays out. Like we all basically knew this was coming. I think we all were really expecting it to be like copyright more than the patent. The the thing that I think is just the best is like the timing, because they just made an announcement recently about doing like full merchandising and like trying to broaden the horizons of what Palworld, encompasses. And I think as soon as they were like, wait, you're going to start selling plushies and making trading cards and movies and TV shows, like, I don't think so. There's only we let Digimon make it too far before we try to stop them.
Yeah, and I think Digimon even had like a mechanic where you could throw toys or something to be able to catch different monsters in like the year 2000 or 2001
Who
in
knows?
Digimon World. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's going to be really interesting to see like if Nintendo they have a good track record and they have a crazy good legal team apparently. So I wouldn't say that they're undefeated in court, but they probably got a pretty damn good record in these types of lawsuits, and they would not be filing something unless they felt that they had like rock hard evidence showing that they're going to win. Uh,
Mhm.
and it has taken them some time, but of course you kind of have to create your battle, right? You got to gather all your materials and
Yeah.
create a case. So that would be the expectation as to why it's taken this long to do it. But it does bring up the question of this game was in development for quite some time. And the concept of capturing creatures with a ball was very noted for a while there, right?
Like,
So,
why wouldn't they have just sent a cease and desist years
yeah,
ago?
is it because now they have money and now you can reap the benefits of this company after a fact?
That's the other
I
thing.
mean,
Maybe they waited for them to get money so that they had more to take from them.
maybe. Maybe that's the case. And if that's the case too, then it's like, well, did your patent really like were you really concerned about infringement on your patents at that point? Considering you knew that this was being developed, you could have sent a cease and desist, you could have done this, but you didn't. So is it because you didn't think that you had a battle? Is it because you were waiting? Yeah, we're gonna find out. It can be anywhere within 1 to 5 years, apparently. Nintendo will probably try and drag this out as much as they can to rack up the legal costs. But the longer that battle goes on, the more games that Pocketpair is going to make, the more merchandise is going to be in the market, the more money they're going to have to just say, okay, cool. We owe you however many millions of dollars. Here it is. We'll make whatever changes we need to make, and we're going to continue moving forward with our game. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not a Pokeball. Maybe it's
A
a
Poke
neck
Cube.
gun. Yeah, it could be a cube. It could be a neck gun to capture stuff. I mean, it could be anything down the road, right? So I I think Nintendo ultimately will win this one just because of their history in Japanese courts over patents, but I don't think it'll be the end of Pocketpair. I do think Palworld will continue long term, and there will be some adjustments to make sure that they don't infringe moving forward.
I want to see this case get thrown out and then Nintendo take the real fight to Pocketpair and start giving Pokemon guns. Meet them instead of trying to stop them. Beat them at their own game, Nintendo.
Can you imagine, like, if Nintendo said, "Well, we're just going to give these Pokemon guns," and then Pocketpair reverse sues them? Well, we had the idea of creating monsters that you could capture with balls and shooting everything up. That's the way it needs to go. All right, moving on. Your article is next.
Yeah, so next up we got accessory maker claims Nintendo Switch 2 photo leak is real. This is by Dominant Bosnak at Game Rant. This was unfortunate that it doesn't actually have like the picture in the article, but if you Google Switch 2 leak, you will be able to see an image. It is like just kind of the back plate and then the Joy-Con shells. There is like a little bit of a circuit board in there, but nothing that really gives away too much. And then the battery bay. So not a whole lot you can actually take in. It's definitely, a mock-up. It's not like a finished retail type of presentation or product. It doesn't appear. But it does have a lot that it can show us. So gone are the slide rails, and in place are these kind of like uh deeper, like set in groove that you will kind of just like stick into either side, and then it should have like some kind of magnetic catch to hold on to the console, and that'll be hopefully better. I mean, I don't know. I don't really like the slide rails. I think that this looks like it makes a lot more sense. I'm just hoping it's going to be, plenty secure, so you don't have to worry about it like accidentally dropping out or something if you get surprised or move your hands in a weird way, or who knows. Other than that, it does make the shoulder buttons seem a lot more accessible without having that, slide rail extra grip that you need for the traditional Joy-Cons. But it's obvious that even if the old Joy-Cons are going to be compatible with the console for multiplayer functionality, you're going to need to be charging those on a traditional Switch or some kind of accessory charger, because they are not going to function and work to charge on this console or use in handheld mode. We also see 2 USB-C slots, one on the top and on the bottom now, which seems, it's kind of nice to just have a second one, because currently the way the Switch is, you cannot charge it while you have it in like kickstand tabletop mode, because the USB-C port is on the bottom. So this would allow you to play it on a tabletop while charging it, like on a airplane, little fold down table or whatever the case might be. It I don't know. Other than that, there's not a lot that you could really glean from this. We could see like the spot where the card is going to go in, but there's no like housing for it, so it's hard to tell if it's going to have some kind of adaptation, like how the 3DS cards had that little just like notch on the side, so they won't fit into the regular DS cart, but the vice versa will work. So it is gonna be real frustrating for Nintendo to, see this out there and kind of feel like, did we wait too long to announce something? Like, has this already leaked out? Like, what's coming next? Like, they better show us something soon, because somebody else is likely to in the not too terrible future, I'm sure.
So on the slide rail component, I actually like the slide rails. I'm not opposed to them. I've always been a fan of those, just
Mhm.
because it does lock in. It's nice and tight, and you can, I don't know, it feels secure, right? So magnetic attachments do kind of feel off-putting to me. I don't know how I feel about that. To your point, right? Like, what if I just move it the wrong way and look, there goes my console on the screen? Maybe that's what Nintendo wants. They want a lot of broken consoles. Who knows? So there's that, but I do agree with you on the charging port. If there is a charging port on the top and the bottom to be able to have that flexibility, I think that's pretty cool. It does make a lot of sense to go about it that route. The one thing that I guess as it pertains to like leaks, I question sometimes if these companies leak those images themselves. Like, it's creating buzz. And not that Nintendo doesn't, or that they need the buzz, like they got plenty of it. But if you have a couple leaks here and there, it gets people talking, it gets folks like us talking, other podcasters, YouTubers, like really discussing this stuff, and that's free marketing is what it ultimately turns into. So when that announcement does come up, everybody's awaiting it. It's not a surprise. It's, hey, we know Nintendo's going to be releasing this. We know they're coming up with it. We've seen the leaked images. It's just, it's word of mouth at that point, dude.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it does say in here that this kind of, if this is true, it is squashing down recent rumors that the Switch 2 could feature some sort of dual screen design.
mhm.
So I suppose if Nintendo is traditionally concerned with a gimmick, standing out, doing something different, they don't just want to be like iPhone and come up with the exact same slab next year that they did the year before. So in this instance, they've waited a long time, but the product just isn't really as exciting as maybe people would be imagining that Nintendo would be working on. So yeah, I guess it could be a way to kind of tamper some of those expectations and let people know before the big announcement, like, hey, it's gonna be what everybody is wanting, just kind of more of the same. But then again, this is also only the back panel. So who's to say the front of the case doesn't have, the whole mounting apparatus for affixing the second screen, you know? We might only be we're literally only getting half the story here.
Well, the other thing too is that these are potentially older versions of the Switch 2, right? It could be
Mhm.
earlier versions of what they were looking at creating, and now they're getting leaked at this point in time. It could still be dual screen. And these images are being leaked to create that buzz and get people thinking about Nintendo Switch 2, only to have this crazy reveal of, look, dual screens. It's a fold out. I don't know. It's a flip switch. I have no it's a flip switch. So there's a number of things that it could
Isn't a
be.
switch flip an actual like Tony Hawk move?
Probably, which means Nintendo lawsuit coming from Tony Hawk. Just watch. He's got a patent on the flip switch or switch flip, whatever it is. I don't know. Probably is a move. Regardless, we'll see. Time will tell. I think we're going to get an announcement here in the next maybe few weeks, maybe next month. We'll get some sort of announcement coming in and some form of like spring release. I would imagine they're going to probably start mass producing these within Q4 for a late Q1 release, maybe Q2 release. That would be my anticipation. And Nintendo hasn't been one to like prop their consoles up for like a year in advance and say, oh, it's coming, and like continually talk about it. They're always this like shadow drop video games and consoles and controllers and accessories and all these other crazy things out of the blue and saying, now it's up for pre-order. So like, don't be surprised if we get some random Nintendo Direct in a month and Nintendo's like, Switch 2 pre-orders are now open, like same day, like zero.
I mean, probably not before like holiday season because they want people to buy the regular Switch right now.
Maybe. I mean, or maybe sales haven't slowed for it. So it's not like they can't continue to sell the Nintendo Switch. I mean, it would predominantly be a situation of reducing the price of the Switch, the existing Switch, and then the Switch Lite, and then putting out this new console at a higher price point at say $400, right? So if you're sitting at a Switch at like traditional Switch at $250, let's just say, or even $200, and then you've got the next version up that's $400, you're going to get a lot of people say, well, you know, I haven't had a Switch up this point. I would love that when I can't afford it, but I can definitely afford $200. Let me jump in on that. So it'll continue to sell those, and then it'll get people at that existing group of fans that already has a Nintendo Switch trade-ins and things of that nature to be able to pick up the new one. So we'll see. But I can think I would think there might be an announcement before holiday season because I mean, what better?
We'll get a look at it. I just don't think we'll get pre-orders.
But think about it this way. If you have these pre-orders open during the holiday season, you're still going to sell Nintendo Switches. You're still going to sell Nintendo games in anticipation for the Switch 2 coming out. And you'll sell pre-orders for sure during that time period. So you're kind of doubling down. You're selling your existing consoles that you already have at retailers, maybe at a discounted rate. You're selling your video games that you have at existing retailers. And you're getting people excited for this new console if a pre-order drop, which they're going to purchase as well. So, I mean, that's a boatload of money that would be coming in at the end of the quarter.
Yeah, I just don't think anybody's going to buy the existing Switch after they pre-order the new one.
Yeah, they will. I mean,
I'm going to buy this literally for 4 months.
No. These people would probably hold on to it for a while, wait till games come out for the Switch 2. It happens. I mean, consoles continue to sell into the life cycle. Like PS4 was still selling within the life cycle of PS5 for a while. Same with PS2 selling into life cycle PS3 and PS3 selling into PS4. Those consoles still sell. It might not be at the same amount, but it doesn't mean that Nintendo like ramped up production of the Switch. They probably reduced their production of the Switch a long time ago. And it's okay, we're only going to have X amount in stock. And once those are sold, We're moving on. We have enough to last us the next 6 months or something like that, or next year in terms of overall supply of the Switch. I'm spouting a lot of this out. You know, Nintendo could take a different approach, but I think there's a realistic situation where they could go ahead and do pre-orders for the Switch within this year before spring.
We'll see.
We'll see for sure. All right. Moving on to the inflation deflation segment. So Forgotten Realms Demon's Stone on the PlayStation 2. So this was developed by Stormfront Studios, published by Atari, designed by Jay Epps and Christopher Porter. It was released in September of 2004. It is an action role-playing hack and slash game, of course, focused on Dungeons and Dragons, story-wise, and reception of 7 out of 10. And then you got a little synopsis for us here. And it's not just slashing. It's more than that.
No, so this game and next week's game are both in the Forgotten Realms setting of D&D, and authored by a very prominent author of actual D&D books, R.A. Salvatore. So he uses, his extensive knowledge of writing and creating a lot of D&D's world to lend, to the story of these games. So in this one, you begin as Rannick, a human fighter. You join forces with a rogue and a sorcerer. The three of you fighting together in the opening level against a few orc armies accidentally release a couple of warlords, Yorl and Sirica. I have no idea how to say those, from the titular demon stone, and then join forces to seal them back and undo what you have done. So that's kind of the general setup here. The gameplay, we started off with, it's a classic kind of PS2 hack and slash run around. You've got some range attacks, you've got some melee attacks, you've got, a hold for heavy attack. I don't even remember all the controls. I know there was a lot of stuff I wasn't doing because just kind of like, I don't know, running around doing 3-hit combos. That's this kind of game.
Well, I mean, there's like team attacks and things, or special attacks, things that you can do. Each of the characters has like their own thing that they can, like their own special abilities. Like the rogue, there are certain types of like shadow steps sort of rogue, pretty much goes invisible within those shadow steps and can jump on the back of different enemies and stab them. So there's lots of cool things between each individual character. I played this years ago. In fact, I would say I probably did play it in 2004, 2005, and beat it back in that time period as well. I felt it was a great game back then. I still feel it's a pretty good game today. I think with the leveling up mechanic of the different characters, there is enough as you progress in the game to unlock new abilities and make it fresh and exciting every time you continue playing those characters. I do think that as you progress, like I remember I focused more on the rogue. I enjoyed the ability to sneak around and do sneak attacks on enemies and the speed of that character. So I think depending on how you play, you might choose one character to kind of focus on as you play the game versus focusing on all three. But that's the direction I chose back then. Overall, like you said, it's hack and slash, very linear. I mean, you're kind of going through the different pathways that are preset by the game. It's not open world or anything of that nature. So think,
Classic
God of,
PS2.
yeah, like God of War, for example. You
Mhm.
slash, you do what you're doing. Devil May Cry, same kind of concept. You go through a level, you finish it up, and you continue through the story. So graphic wise, I think the graphics on this game are actually still very good. They still hold up, in my opinion, for a PS2 era game. And then the music itself is very good. I think the game controls really well. I think the story, of course, is good. Given who the writer is, it's bound to be a pretty decent story. And it's a good game in my opinion. It's not a bad game. There's a lot of hack and slash games that came out during that era, some of which were great, some of which were bad. And I think this falls like in that upper echelon of like decent games that came out in the hack and slash genre.
Yeah. I don't know. We didn't play it for too terribly long. I was a little bit bored. I think I asked you, is the whole game like this? And you said that, the level up does add some choice and some increased mechanics. So I think that there's probably a lot more of this game that I didn't get to experience that, might wind up turning me around on it more. I do like that, there's kind of the three typical archetypes and you can switch between them whenever you want. And I don't know. I like D&D. I like PS2 games. I think that this isn't the worst game that you could pick up and just kind of like try to roll through on a weekend. Also, props to the North American box art. Very cool box art.
Yeah, it actually is. That red on white is
Mhm.
pretty solid. Like it definitely stands out. I remember that
I
was one
remember
of the
seeing
things
this
that
in stores, like at GameStop, like, and just like looking at it, but never like I didn't know what Forgotten Realms even was. Like when you look at this, it looks like the game is just called Demon Stone. Like the Forgotten Realms is down there next to the T for Teen and Atari logos.
I have always called this game Demon Stone. I've never really called it Forgotten Realms Demon Stone. In fact, when I
Mhm.
was younger, I never even associated it with D&D. I just associated it to being a good hack and slash game that I enjoyed. And had different characters that were fun to play. So, I took it from that kind of lens when I was younger, and even today, I don't know, I can appreciate it more today, right? But I would even still take it in that same manner of it's a fun game. It's one that you can sit back, you can relax, you don't have to put a ton of stressful time into it because it's just you're hacking and slashing crap, going to the end of a level, progressing, leveling up your characters, and moving forward. We played, God, I'm trying to remember what game it was we played on PS2 not too long ago. Seth MacFarlane's Evil Prophecy, I think. Like,
Mm.
if you compare Evil Prophecy to that of like what we played, now granted, Evil Prophecy has guns and special abilities, and you can switch between characters and such as well, but it's still kind of a hack and slash. Like, if I were to pit those two against one another and say which one are you more likely to play, I would definitely choose Demon's Stone over a game like that. So I
It's
think that's two ends of the spectrum, those two games.
Yeah, the closest thing that I was thinking about when I was looking at some pictures and stuff this morning is kind of like those like the Two Towers game. That was like that action RPG. I think that was on like 360 though, not on.
It was on
Was that
PS2 as well, I think.
was that on PS2?
The Lord of the Rings games are on PS2 as well, and Xbox.
Okay. Yeah, so
I mean,
I
but it
I,
depends.
I
There's been so many so many games released for Lord of the Rings over, the last few console generations. I could be wrong
yeah.
on that.
No,
But yeah,
this is the one I was thinking about. Yeah, the Two Towers on PS2. Yeah, so I mean, I would say it kind of fulfills like some of those kind of like vibes. It's cool. I like these type of games. I haven't played one of these type of games in a long time, but I would certainly be down to play more of this. And when we take a look at the brass tacks here, complete in box run you $11.99. That peaked at 11.40. Or wait, that can't be right. I think that's got to be like 14 or something. Let me see here.
at least you're
So it
making errors and
was
not me.
14.99. Yeah, back in February of 2024. And then a loose copy will run you. Oh wait, no, I was looking at the loose price there. Man, I'm all over the place. Complete in box, yeah, 14.99. Loose peak price was 11.49. That's where I messed
I
up.
thought you mixed up those two. Yeah, like it made sense.
Yeah.
Let's
So
restate this. Complete in box, $11.99, peaked at $14.99 in September of 2024. Trending, it's holding its price right now, looks like. And a loose copy will run you $10, peaked at $14.99 or peaked. Jesus,
11.49.
you mixed up the numbers on me in the middle of it. $11.49. I was like looking back at what you had there. $11.49 or 99 in September of 2023, and that's trending up. So that's a
Mhm.
whole big mix up there for people. But here's the bottom line is you can pick it up right now, complete in box for $12. I think that's a great deal for this
Mhm.
game. I think there's enough content there. I think it's D&D focused. So if you collect D&D stuff and you like to play D&D games, you really can't go wrong for $12 with a decent game. I mean, 7 out of 10 average ratings is not terrible on this game. It's good story from what I remember, good leveling mechanics, good music, good controls. You're not getting a janky mess. So I think it's deflated, man. I think if somebody was to buy this for $15 for a nice minty copy, they'd be happy with their purchase.
Yeah, and even better, if you're not somebody who owns a PS2, you can get it on GOG for $9.99.
The hell's
So,
GOG?
good old games,
What is wait,
GOG.
never heard of that.
You've never heard of GOG, dude? You're the one with a
No.
PC.
I get Steam. I don't
Yeah, GOG
yeah.
is another service that does games, but they've got a lot of different stuff. I think they've got a lot of older stuff. They do a lot of like bundles and things and stuff. I think goes to charity. I don't know. I don't buy games on
Like I
PC,
know
but
nowadays there's websites where you can buy like used Steam codes and stuff.
no,
Like
this isn't like that. It's not
okay,
like
it's not like
a
that.
resale key. Yeah, but it's a good option if you want to play on
Hmm.
PC. You can get it there.
All right. So verdict would be, are we gonna say deflated on this one?
Yeah, we can go deflated on this one. I think it was definitely worth the time that we were playing it. And like I said, I would definitely have fun, playing with this over a weekend. I do wish it was like a multiplayer game. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I agree. That's the one thing I didn't like about that. Because that was an era where I probably would have played this game with my brother, but ultimately it was just me playing it. And we both had different PS2s and stuff and our own set of games. But I think this is one that he and I would have had a lot of fun playing together for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, this has been episode 305, the Game Deflators Podcast. Next week, we're going to be playing, is it Dark Alliance on the PS4?
Yeah.
Yeah. So heard that one's pretty rough. But, you know, as we said, with critic reviews and user scores, maybe it's not as bad as it's made out to be. So we'll be catching up soon. We will. But my name's John.
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.